Hello everybody, Anaris here, and welcome to my coverage of the After Hours Gaming League. We're here today to witness the epic battle between Google and Twitter, two internet giants who have fielded their most skilled StarCraft warriors in an attempt to promote teamwork, fun, and friendly competition while supporting charity. I can't think of a better reason for competitive gaming, so let's get right down to today's matchup. We'll be witnessing a best of 5 series from week 4 of this tournament. Keep in mind that the winner at the end of the 9-week event will be crowned champion and will guide the $5,000 prize to a charity of their choice. As I said, today's matchup is Google versus Twitter, and you can see both teams look quite confident that they will come out on top. Current standings show that Google is in a second place lead so far, with Twitter at rank number 7. So taking a look at the first matchup, we will have Hello World versus Invictus, a Protoss versus Zerg on Backwater Gulch. Both of these players are quite mentally prepared going into today's match series and have said as much on their AfterHoursGaming.tv profile. Alright folks, let's join the match in progress now. Game number 1, Hello World representing Team Google down in the bottom left position as the Teal Zerg player. And representing Twitter, we do have the blue Protoss, Invictus. Now, when asked why he thinks his team will win, Hello responded, "Why? Because we're more skilled." I mean, you can't get much more confident than that. But, really, going into a match like this, knowing that your opponent has that high level of confidence, how can you prepare for something like that? Well, Invictus says on his AfterHoursGaming.tv profile, he slept, he ate a bit, he watched the GSL. I mean, these are all pretty standard human bodily functions that are necessary for day-to-day movement here. But he also studied up on the latest, meanest bad manner, and he practiced ladder. So now these guys are both feeling very confident in their abilities. Let's go into the match and see what's going to happen. We do have, actually, this map is kind of funky for Protoss against Zerg because the wall off with the small space, it is kind of difficult to wedge in your proper building placement there with the gateway and the cybernetics core. The confined space also makes it a little bit vulnerable. You can see to roach pressure down here at the bottom. This gateway will be exposed to any range units down there early on. So like I said, roach is very powerful. Just send in some zerglings, get vision to the high ground, and you can make a very strong early game play. But likewise, for the Protoss player, the Zerg natural expansion is actually a little bit closer to the Protoss main base and the entrance to the third than the Protoss's natural expansion. So that'll be kind of an interesting map dynamic that could come into play later on. We will have to wait and see. In the meantime, Hello World opening up with that conservative Zerg play, getting the gas first, getting the couple Zerglings, the metabolic boost going, and then going for the expansion down here at the natural. Likewise, Protoss waiting around to drop that cybernetics core. We'll wait and see. It looks like he is going to drop it right there. Okay, so that is fine and dandy. I would like to see some type of airplay here at some point during the matchup. I mean, a lot of times that's what you'll have against a Zerg player as a Protoss. In the mid game for scouting, for harassment, you'll either get hallucinations or you'll get like Phoenix, Void Ray, something along those lines. But as far as guarding the expansion for the Protoss, it actually works out pretty well in the Protoss favor for this spot, because you see the two well-defined choke points right here make for very easy placement of buildings to wall off, and you can basically close this one up entirely, and only takes a little bit more to close this one as well, leaving only one entrance with that set of destructible rocks. So we'll wait and see, as Invictus looks like he's going to be chrono boosting out both a Stalker and his Warp Gate technology. I think what he sees is a high priority target here. Hello World parking his Overlord over top of Invictus' main base. This will prove to be a very attractive target, as early on an Overlord has a very, very high value. If you can knock that out, knock the Zerg's supply count back down, then he's going to be blocked for a good while. And of course, here's a few Zerglings for Hello World. He wants to make these pay for themselves, get some good scouting action. They're going to come up here, spot, okay, Gateway, Cybernetics Core. Don't see any Chrono Boost on either right now, but you see this is going to be poking around just a little bit. This poor little Zergling not quite able to fit in there. I think he's the overweight one of the bunch. Unfortunately, getting taken out by the Zealot, just having to run over and engage that. Guess just life was too much for him there, but very smart by Invictus. He did actually finish off that Overlord with his Stalker, so score one for the Protoss player here as Hello World, keeping his Zerglings down at the base. Again, this is primarily just to make sure no probes get out of here and drop an expansion. And if the Protoss decides to move out with his forces, it'll also give the Zerg player that information. Of course, we do have a probe heading down right now, which you see is going to be very quickly brought back. Zealot to the rescue, as now the Zerg player realizes, okay, we're going to be facing an expansion here soon. Going to want to get these Zerglings out, retreat. And you look it over at Hello World's base, it's looking pretty good right now. He's got the natural done, he's got the Queen parked at it, he's got the drones transferring, and he's got the Roach Warren on the way. Roaches, of course, I think a very good idea. You know, good cheap defensive unit for Tier 1, a guard against that early pressure, and also, like I said before, they can be used to some effect here in this this particular ramp position and other spots as well. We do have Hallucination on the way for Invictus, so again, very smart, continuing to warp in these sentries. Very, very good, actually. I mean, he's going to be having all of these gas-heavy units. It's not going to be that out of the way for him to just go ahead and drop down that Hallucination, 100 minerals, 100 gas, so very smart move indeed. Hello World, likewise, going to continue to D-up. He's got his lair on the way. You can see he's working on that second gas right now, and also deciding to go ahead and throw down some spine crawlers. Now Protoss, again, good move here with his forces actually heading out. Not the best in terms of directly assaulting the main base unless he can get a good position at the top of the ramp, because those sentries are fairly weak units, but the force fields and just the fact that you've got the Stalker there, all ranged units, it will allow him to basically run around the middle of the map, check for stray Zerglings, check for scouts, kind of apply some light pressure if he feels the need, basically make these units pay for himself as the game continues on. Now here's the Hallucination. We'll watch and see what the Protoss player scouts here. Oh, to get a little direct eye view. Okay, comes over, sees the natural expansion, comes and finds the Roach Warren, and now pretty much finds, okay, that's pretty much, that's about all you can really get from this. Not much more to be seen, really, as the natural expansion doesn't have a lot of tech structures. A lot of times you'll see Zerg players decide to go ahead and opt to throw down the lair here at the natural, the tech structures at the natural. And the reason they do that, and the reason why he's not doing it on this particular setup, and I think it's very smart that he's not, is that you'll see a lot of Zerg players want to do that because their main base isn't quite as safe or as closer to their opponent than, say, their natural. And we see Invictus letting a little bit of a Chronoboost fly by there. Definitely not a good thing, but I would say not the worst thing that could happen at this point. For Zerg player, though, you see his natural expansion actually pushes him closer to the Protoss main base, so this is a little bit more vulnerable than his main for things like drop play, sort of strategies like that. So that's why a lot of the defense is here, and really not much else. Now let's actually look at the drone count here really quick. 50 to 44 actually going down there, as I believe one of them just turned into another hatchery. Indeed, we do have another hatchery going down right here at the top left of the map. A little bit of a sneaky expansion, but I like that. At this point in the game, the Protoss player, other than that Hallucination, really isn't going to have an effective means of going up and scouting there, and he's likely not to send his army there unless he has a good reason, because it's so far out of the way from his main base, he would be leaving it entirely undefended, and really, it would take forever for him to actually get back there. So now he is moving out. His forces are looking a little bit stronger. He's got a lot more Stalkers now. This is the kind of range damage that you want to have complement your Sentry Force. When you get those force fields going down, you want to be able to still be able to fire, and having something more than sentries is exactly going to feel that need. So now the Zerg player, we could just look at the army size and see Zerg is definitely lacking on the army right now. But I mean, really, he's been macroing up a whole bunch. He's got several Mutalisks on the way now that are going to be going into the mineral line possibly here for the Protoss player, with one photon cannon on the way, not quite complete, shutting down the mineral production here on this half, and now that cannon's here. Okay, it's not going to be able to continue to do that damage because that cannon will, unfortunately, for the Zerg player, pay for itself by taking out a few mutas before it actually goes down. So very smart for Invictus, but Hello World is still in such a fantastic position here. We could see 54 to 51 as he is continuing to drone up. You see the fact that he's got these mutas on the field, it's keeping the Protoss on the defensive, so that expansion up here is not being touched. You're seeing this cannon going down. There goes 150 minerals, not to mention all the damage to the probes from those glaive worms bouncing around in the mineral line. Finally, the probes are being run away, so Hello World making his mark here on the main base as the Protoss player is trying to get back in here while establishing a more direct route to his opponent's base. Templar Archives has now completed. There's that blink upgrade coming into play, catching several mutas before they're able to get out. I think he actually lost 3 or 4 of them in that batch of attack. All in all, very well executed by the Zerg player. Let's just look at the units lost real quick. You could see that Protoss has lost ever so slightly more in terms of units so far for this matchup, but workers killed 16, so that is a lot of income that is unfortunately for the Protoss player been lost to this harassment. So very effective here as we do get ready to approach the 14-minute mark. With these mutas still at large, we do have weapons 2 on the way for the air units. We also have melee attacks level 1 that'll affect the Zerglings and the Banelings, which we can expect to see in fairly decent quantities here. Now, here comes the mutas once again, possibly going in to the main. Let's see how effective that actually will be, though. As far as the Templars goes, we do have, I think that was a little bit of lag that we had from one of the players right there. But as far as the Templars go, we do have the Psystorm just about complete, and you'll spot that there are 2 on the field right now. Zerg continuing to hang back, which I think is a very smart move right now. He just wants to get his numbers bolstered. He wants to make sure that he's not going to be running into a trap with the High Templar. You could see that there are none down here. I believe they are hanging around here somewhere. But the mutas are going to be going in once again, taking out that cannon. Yes, indeed, there are not enough Stalkers here to stop this attack, so you're going to see Hello World feel very bold right now and just continue to attack. I frankly don't blame him one bit. There's a very strong response by Invictus, though, coming in, saving the mineral line once again. We can just look at the effect of that attack now. 30 probes lost so far, so extremely effective attack with those mutas, the continued harassment. As we wait to see what the Protoss player does to try to bolster his defenses here on the mineral line. The natural looking pretty good. He's got a lot of cannons here, and the thing is, he's also got those High Templar. They're going to be heading out with the Protoss player to possibly attack the main base. Now let's look and see how something like this would go. We have several spine crawlers rather here at the top of the ramp. Very solid defensive position, and you see they're already going to be whacking away at that Stalker, taking down the shields or 1 or 2 of them as we speak, forcing a very quick retreat as Invictus is going to want to kind of analyze, okay, is this really going to work out? What are the tools that I have at my disposal that can help me accomplish a victory here? Very smart force fields, preventing the Zerglings from running along the side. You see that Hello World being very wise, keeping them back. Does not want to send them into what was kind of a choke position there. There's a lot of energy that has just been spent. Those Zealots are absorbing a lot of the hits from the Spine Crawlers, so that will work out well for him. A few Zerglings actually taking the initiative as several storms landing. Oh, the Zerglings dodging there. Very nice. Unfortunately for the Zerg player, a lot of those Zerglings were lost. It looks like all of them. But now the mutas, after finishing up in the Protoss base, you see they're going to come back and defend once again, realizing, okay, I've managed to whittle down the forces enough. The High Templar are no longer a threat, so he's going to be able to trail this here. He's going to have to watch out and make sure he doesn't bunch the mutas. That Archon, tiny bit of splash damage, will just wreck a tightly packed ball of air units that are light. Now, as a result of that attack, 39 workers that the Zerg player did score an additional 9 probe kills over in the main base, while the Protoss was edging up into the natural here with the heavy defenses. As far as the units loss goes, we see that the Protoss player definitely not sitting in a favorable position right now. But he does have his 3rd base up, so that will work out quite well for him here. Zerglings, oh, nice positioning here by Invictus, avoiding a lot of the Zergling pressure. The mutas, though, again, there's just so many of them. We have 14 mutas on the way. A bunch of them just popped a second or 2 ago, as well as many Zerglings coming along the line, as the Zerg player also going ahead for his 4th base rather. And with this mineral line getting wrapped up here, but Invictus losing a lot more workers, a lot more probes. Look at the income discrepancy, 30 worker difference right there, as I'm really not sure that Invictus is going to be able to keep up here. You look at just at the supply tab, 178 to 43, really not looking good so far. Hello World managing to just sustain that critical lead that he gained early on, forcing a GG from Invictus. Very well played by both players. Exciting match indeed, but Hello World scoring was first match victory for Google. Let's go on to game number 2 and see what happens next. Welcome back, everybody. We are here for game number 2 of Google versus Twitter here on week 4. This time, Google is going to field Stevo, a Zerg player. He is also a web developer, IRL, and his opponent from Twitter is going to be Caesar. Name is Ed. He's technical lead for storage and plays Protoss. Let's go on to the Shatter Temple and see how this is going to go down. On the Stevo side of things, we do have him spawning as the Red Zerg over in the 9 o'clock position. His opponent, Caesar, is going to be spawning in a close 12 o'clock position as the Blue Protoss. So, what that means, pretty much I would expect to see pressure from one or both of the players. Pretty much whoever thinks they're going to get that advantage early on, whether it be from Zerglings, Banelings, maybe busting through the Zealot, or maybe some Roaches taking a hit or two at what'll probably be the Protoss walling off down here, as we already have the probe sitting down to drop the pylon in this area, sure enough. So he's going to be going for that wall right there. And of course, like I said, close position ZVP, you're going to have some frantic action from the start here. Likewise, Stevo, from what we saw, his teammate in game number 1 opened up in a fairly close position on Backwater Gulch, went for that conservative build, getting the extractor first, the spawning pool second, the metabolic boost, and then expanding. Really worked out well for him. So Stevo might decide to go the route of his teammate and do the same thing. Although, if he wanted to go for the completely opposite approach, it'd be a little bit risky, but I think it still could be viable if he uses his initial, or if he gets out a few lings early enough to keep the Protoss feeling like he has to stay on the defensive. Like I said, it's a really risky maneuver, though. Not a lot of room for error, and we do see that extractor going down first, so he is going to be opening up with that 14 extractor, 14 pool. So, Protoss up here going ahead with the wall, which the scout for the Zerg is gonna spot. Okay, there's the gateway, there's the pylon, and everything's looking all hunky-dory up there. Of course, we also do have the gas in the second pylon drop down around 15 supply. So, interesting timing on that, but everything's looking pretty good so far, as Caesar definitely does not want that drone scouting in his base. Get out of here, you pesky drone. You're not even mechanical. You don't belong in this Protoss base. Get out. And he is really dedicated to getting that guy out. Okay, well, there we go. Now Stevo is heading out. I mean, really the most important thing is to try to get those scouts out before you drop down your kind of giveaway buildings. I call them giveaway buildings because, I mean, beside the obvious, it's what generally comes after the cybernetics core, whether that's going to be like a 3-gate Sentry expand, or, you know, 1 or 2, or if it's going to be a robotics facility, you're going to go straight to Stargate. Any number of those things, that's what that drone is going to want to watch for. And that's generally the point that they start actually leaving the base if you don't chase them down. But we do have that drone hanging out up here, and this Zealot is just like, you know what, dude, you are in my space, and I'm just gonna dance with you. Okay, well, we'll do a little jig, yeah. Do. Finally, the drone is dead. First kill of the game here. Caesar taking out the drone, blocking his Zealot spot. Man, I mean, if I were that Zealot, I would be pissed off enough to kill that drone too. So, yes, here those Zerglings coming for the probe kill. They want some revenge, man. They heard about what happened here up in the north. They do not like hanging out in that neighborhood, so they are going to still just poke around, maybe do what we saw in game number 1, attack and just kind of bait the Zealot out, but not much more than that, especially now that you have that Stalker out here. So that's pretty much going to cut any chance of Zergling harassment there on the structures. We do have a Sentry on the way, as well as a second gateway. So, 2 gateways and a Roach Warren going down. There's that third gateway as well. So I think we are going to see the Protoss player decide to go ahead with that 3-gate expand. He's also sending his forces out here, maybe trying to clear out the Zerglings that he knows are near the expansion. I mean, it's very likely It's very likely that you're going to have something floating around here if you're a Protoss who's just kind of turtled up here for the first couple minutes. So good thing that he moved out, popped off a free Zergling kill. As you see now, couple still hanging out there in the middle. They're waiting for the roaches. That's a very, very smart move. If he can get out there and hit the Protoss before he's really able to react with any more units, then I think he'll be in a fantastic spot. But we'll see as Caesar's Warp Gate technology is just finishing up. He's going to be bringing in the second and third warp gates here. Now that that unit is done, the other one is warped in, and now here we go with the roaches moving out towards the Protoss base. This is actually good timing by Steve-O, as he will be dropping his expansion while this engagement, potential engagement at least, is taking place. I mean, I say engagement because you look at what's going on right now, and the whole purpose of going this early Roach build is to put that early pressure on the Protoss, delay that expansion, force them into defensive positions, spend more money on these gateway units, and ultimately delay their whole tech tree. So here we go now with the Roaches. Quick cancellation of that pylon. Oh, it looks a little bit of a erroneous force field there. Second one much better. The Zerg will not be able to get vision of the high ground, so the Protoss is in a good spot right now. He's going to have to keep that force field there. There is no Overlord close, but there is one kind of parked way over here. So here comes the Zerg player once again. Another force field goes down. Crisis has been delayed. And we see now actually the Zerg player able to get a couple free hits there as the Overlord coming in. Sentries versus Roaches, definitely not a situation that you want to have here, but he is continuing to drop the force fields, and now the Roaches are going to be attacking the Cybernetics core, which is going to set the Protoss back significantly. He does have a Forge on the way. He's anticipating sitting with a very heavy defense here for a while, so he's going to be able to go ahead and drop down a cannon or two in his base. I think what he was probably wanting to do was maybe put that cannon or two down here and guard the natural expansion, but still this will actually work out pretty well for him. He's going to be able to get weapons 1 still pretty much on time, so that's a good thing. You see he's just kind of selecting that and waiting. I think he's got the right idea there. The Zerg player, he's pretty much done all he's going to do with that Cybernetics core going down. It looks like it's actually being built in the same spot. I mean, hey, if he still needs that wall, which at this point he does, and that's a good decision. But he's done his job. You look at the income now, 23 to 32. So Zerg has definitely sacrificed some drones in order to get to this point. But we'll see if it actually turns out to work in his favor, as he was able to come down, establish an extractor, a hatchery, and he's throwing down several spine crawlers here as well, which combined with what he has as a standing army, I think will be able to hold itself very easily. We could see that actually just the army comparison right there. As far as units lost goes, 750 to 100 for the resources, so worked out very well. Of course, 1 to 2 workers, still not a lot this early in the game. We do have 2 additional gateways going down. Now, this pylon is pretty vulnerable to those roaches, but, oh man, yes, my voice definitely just cracked there. But we'll see exactly how that ends up, as I'm not sure if the Zerg is going to be in a great position to do any sort of aggression once again here, as, oh man, Zerg is coming around. Are they going to be able to do any serious damage? No, there is that one Zealot in the lead. It would have probably tanked a lot of those. Ended up running back. Good call by Steve-O. Now let's take a look at the main base here for Steve-O. He does have 1 Spore Crawler up here. Very smart. That's because he knows the next threat is going to be either air or possibly later on Dark Templar as well. Dark Templar harassment is very, very common these days. And so getting 1 Spore Crawler to each base, generally a good move throughout the entire matchup. Rarely a waste of money. I would actually say never. But, well, not quite never, but you know what I mean. So there's the hallucination coming for Caesar. I mean, really, like I said before, 1 of 2 pathways you can go at this point. In PvZ, get a hallucination, scout out, or you can decide to go and dump additional resources into getting some air harassment. Phoenix, Void Rays, trying to catch the Zerg before he's really able to field a strong anti-air army. And we see, of course, there is that Spore Crawler and Queen knocking out that hallucination. He saw pretty much everything. He knows, okay, so that's the one thing he didn't see, and this is very smart by Steve-O. Dropping down that infestation pit just after that hallucination came by. He knows that probably not going to have another one here in the near future. So it looks like he's actually, the Protoss player, Caesar, is going to be extending his wall again, as we have a massive probe transfer coming down here. Oh, here comes another hallucination. Probably going to be checking out expansions here. Zergling's going to be popping in, seeing if they can do any damage. Oh, charging the front line there, suffering several casualties on the way back. But look at this expansion for Stevo going down. It's a little bit exposed, but oh man, Hallucination is going to be checking out those expansions. Good for Caesar, checking those out. Very smart thinking. So he should actually spot that here. And about 2 seconds, and boom, yes. Now the question is he actually going to be able to do anything about it? We see there's still a very large gap here in his defenses, so he's going to have to keep these forces around for a little while or do something about securing this wall. Because the problem is, if he attacks way down here, then he's going to be very vulnerable to a counterattack from the Zerg, who is so close to the natural expansion. And there's the Overlord taking a few hits, probably going to be going down there. It's in a good position, though. It mainly just wants to see, okay, is the Protoss going to be moving out to that expansion? Yes, no, maybe, okay. Well, it did unfortunately die, but the Zerg player Stevo was able to extend the creep out, rather, and towards the middle of the map with the spine crawlers, so he's going to effectively shut down one of these lanes right here, the closest one for travel between the north and the southern portion of the map. So which means that the Protoss, if he wants to get around, he's going to either have to go through the Xel'Naga Watchtower or cut way around here and make it an even longer travel distance. So you see the Protoss going ahead with an Immortal, very smart move. I mean, he did see a very roach-heavy force the last time he scouted out his opponent. And we also do have a Hydralisk Den coming down, which is also a good move considering how heavy on Stalkers this army actually is. Also very effective against those Immortals as well. So there goes several force fields down, but Caesar, probably a good idea that he's going to retreat for just a second there. You see with those force fields, and all those roaches come in, he's going to have to drop some additional ones there. There we go. The roaches actually just running around, chickens with their heads cut off, finally finding a point of entry between the two force fields, coming in single file. Does not want to engage like that, so he is going to pull back there. And once again, trying his luck. He's got more Stalkers coming in this time, so his firepower is going to be even better. Almost losing the Immortal there. Oh no, it goes down. That is a lot of firepower missing now for the Protoss, but he has so many Stalkers here, and still a decent bit of energy on these sentries to be able to drop those force fields. But here, it changed everything. Fungal growth landing on top of the Stalkers. That is really going to force the Protoss player to retreat, even with those force fields there, pretty much just delaying the inevitable. Oh man, lost a sentry full of energy. Here comes Protoss once again. Does not have the blink upgrade. Definitely could use it at this point with these Hydralisks. He realizes that he's not in the best position to engage. So close to the Zerg base, he knows those reinforcements can come very quick. He wants to fight on his own terms, which is right next to this pylon just outside of the base. Oh man, Infestors in hot pursuit could have nailed another fungal. Sweet Caesar with the sweet moves, man, just getting out at the very last second, manages to save his army from that sticky destruction. Units lost now as a result, 4375 to 5425, so a little bit in favor of the Zerg there. We'll see if that actually translates to something bigger later on. Do want to point out the Zealots heading down towards the expansion, which it looks like, yeah, there's several observers here in this game. Looks like one of them was just pointing that out. Now the next question is, what is the Protoss player going to do about his own next expansion? Is he going to be able to drop out and get a third one, or I don't know, man. He could go for this one. It'd be a little bit risky, but for now we do have the Zerg player looking to put some pressure on the Protoss. This is mainly to try to poke in, see if maybe exactly how much Caesar committed to that attack, aside from the Zealots, if there's going to be anything else en route, and if there's any vulnerabilities, try to exploit them. He saw that most of what the Protoss player had actually is still up here. So not the best idea to actually continue that engagement, which we saw he did execute based on that thought process, pulled back, and is just kind of letting his energy build up right now. Very smart. And Protoss likewise continuing to scout around with those Zealots, and it will be kind of funny if you actually, oh, there we go, several drones coming. Let's see if those Zealots actually check the bottom here to see if those turned. Oh, he did not! The Zerg player is going to be able to ninja back at least 2 expansions if he wants to, and get those going. You see he's sitting on a decent chunk of money right now, and the Protoss player, he's actually opting to go kind of an interesting route here. We've got High Templar, no Psystorm just yet, but he's also got Colossi. He has 2 weapons, 1 armor, no range upgrades, so now the Zerg is once again moving in with this ball That is, oh, these Zealots, just the luckiest Zealots I have ever seen, sliding right on past the Zerg army. Drone's still just kind of hanging out here. Protoss, Zerg mainly just working on getting his forces up. You see he just dropped 3 hatcheries. We've got a macro hatchery down here that's been going down for some time. And also 2 additional expansions. I think he's kind of going for the security through obscurity here, hoping the Protoss isn't going to scout out again with that hallucination. A little bit of a risky move, seeing as how the hallucination was how he found that kind of obscure expansion the first time. But Caesar opting for that expansion up here at the top, which I think is the most logical point at this moment, since the rocks have not been destroyed up here. He's going to be able to fortify without the Zerg really having too much say in it until he actually gets up there and scouts, which we don't see any creep timbers in this area, so he's not going to be creeping up. He doesn't have any overlords. He's not going to spot it, so it'll pretty much just be up to Steve-O and his game sense to kind of maybe later on down the road, maybe I should check up there. You know, it's a good spot, so we'll see what happens. Steve-O does have good coverage of the expansions, though. You know, he does have this one pretty much a lockdown up here. He's got this expansion which leads into the main base up here, which has a Zergling. So Protoss does not have a lot of places, or a ton of places to scout right now. Steve-O, oh, he spotted it with the Overseers going to be knocking out those rocks. Will these defenses load up in time? They're about 50% complete. We see the Protoss army moving across the way now. Still do not have that range upgrade. It is just about complete. But we do have the Zealot charge coming in just a moment. We also still do not have that Psystorm. I mean, he's trying to push through a lot of gas-heavy units right now while running on effectively 2 bases here. We see he's still got gas in all 4, fortunately for him. Got a bunch of probes over here who I guess are on some kind of strike at the moment. I don't really know. Possibly labor wages, something like that. I don't know. But more importantly here, let's actually just take a look at the units. We can see, okay, 2 Colossi, 13 Stalkers, 7 High Templar that still don't have Psystorm yet. Now, hasn't quite been able to push through. Again, kind of running it low on the gas there in the money. But the Zerg player, on the other hand, he's sitting in a pretty good spot. He's got those Infestors. He's got plenty of Roaches for tanking. He's got a few Hydralisks. He's also got 5 Corruptors. It's good that he's not quite overdoing it right now. He knows his opponent only has a couple of those Colossi. We see only 2 of them. So there's that Psystorm loading up there. If he's going to be able to get that out, then he's going to be in a really, really great spot, I think. But those High Templar as well, they're going to be able to feed back those Infestors. It's going to all come down to positioning. If the Fungal can land before those High Templar can really lock the targets and then back out before they can, you know, feedback, Psystorm, anything like that, then the Zerg is going to realize, I think, a clear victory here. But likewise, the Protoss player, if he can nail some force fields, keep those Infestors out of a good spot, you know, come in and lay down with some great Psystorms, get those Colossi to work, keep those Zealots taking most of the damage, then it'll work out in his favor. We'll actually have to see, as the players are still building up here. Expansion's looking good for the Zerg. We do have them working on defenses at both of the bases right now. Again, very good, dropping down the Spore Crawler at each base. At this point, DT, a very real and present threat. I don't think we actually have a Dark Shrine here, but in terms of where we are in the game time, you know, a lot of times you'll see that Dark Shrine going down, and you'll see those Dark Templar littered around the map. We do have actually Caesar heading out with 2 probes. He's going to be discovering that expansion right here. Get whacked in the face with a Spine Crawler if he decides to. Oh, very close. Almost ran right into it. But we see that he's actually going to run next into those Zerglings. Speaking of Zerglings, we have a bunch of them just running kamikaze into that Zealot line here as the Protoss moves out with all of his forces, heading out towards the middle. Maybe he's hoping to catch the Zerg player, maybe thinking that he's going to head towards that expansion, but you see he's waiting around hoping to catch a good opportunity to attack, get some of those units at the rear, as I think those Colossi were shooting at something. I don't know. Oh man, they are pretty exposed right now. The Zealots coming in. Fantastic Storms landing, annihilating the health on almost all of those Roaches that came over and engaged. You see just a few hit points left on each of them. And now the Colossi here trying to draw out and maybe draw some of those Zerg forces out, attacking the Spine Crawler without really suffering any heavy damage themselves. The army supply is actually very close, 181 to 176, drone count 54 to 63, and here we go, folks. This looks like it's party time. Tons of swords blanketing the Zerg army while the Broodlords continue. Oh, but the Zealots held in place with a fungal growth. Once again, more Psystorms landing on the back where the light units are. The Protoss able to mop up the roaches, take out the infestors. All he has left to deal with are the Broodlords. And with that blink upgrade on the way, it'll help out a good bit here. Is it going to be enough, though? He's still attacking those Broodlings. He's not making his way up to the Broodlords there. They are fighting uncontested. Finally, 2 Broodlords have gone down. A third one very close as he continues his pursuit. We're about to have number 4 here, putting more Zerglings on the way. Very effective against what's pretty much just a Stalker army running directly into the Spinecrawlers, taking very heavy hits, fighting on Zerg's home turf. And now we are back over to the middle, near Caesar's base. Now those Zerglings running into the Archon. Definitely do not want to be doing that. Try to engage those Stalkers. Stalkers continuing to run around. They really need that blink upgrade to get away from those Zerglings. Those 3 are going to go down right now as the Broodlords continue to hold these Stalkers in place. The Colossus, he knows what to do, man. He knows fire from across the pit right there. But even the pit will not be enough to save him, as he will explode into the chasm down below. Stalker's now back on the defensive. There's that blink upgrade. Good positioning right there, able to come in, use the terrain and the buildings to his advantage, and create a nice little choke point. You see, actually, the Broodlords are ignoring the Stalkers now, allowing Caesar just a few precious seconds to give him an additional warbands. Plenty of additional Stalkers coming along the way. Very smart unit, pretty much the only one he can bring in at this point with any level of expediency that will be effective in countering what he is facing up against right now. There's the GG from Caesar. Wow, bringing Google to a 2-0 lead here. This best of 5 series. All right, guys, let's go on to game number 3, and it could be a shutout. We could go on to game number 4, see if Twitter can bring it back and push it on to game number 5. You'll just have to wait and find out. Welcome back, and here we go, folks. Game number 3, Google versus Twitter in the After Hours Gaming League. We're going to have Brian as Nexus 1 representing Team Google, who is currently 2-0 against Twitter, represented now by Garu. Real name is Gary. So we have a couple players from the software division kicking off the match here. All right, let's go on to the game. It's going to be played on Tal'Darim Altar and see how this goes. In the match now, we have Garu spawning in the top right position as the blue Terran player with the cool Horde symbol, man. Alright, awesome stuff there. I actually had the same thing on mine. So Nexus 1 spawning down as the teal Terran player as we have a cross-position TVT on Tal'Darim Altar. Like I said before, now TVT is about as close as a chess match you can kind of get in StarCraft 2. Very meticulous. You have to be extremely precise, and so I'm going to be looking, I'm going to get slaughtered. So Garo coming into this, hoping for the best, but I guess maybe preparing for something else. Nonetheless, you know what, man? These guys are awesome for coming out and playing this. I am just so happy to be able to cast these games for you today. And yeah, so Nexus 1, take one for the team, he suggests. Well, we'll see how this goes. I mean, wouldn't it be funny if Garu manages to come back from what he feels like is already a loss and takes one for his team, bring Twitter back, put him in game 4, possibly game 5, and secure victory for the team. We'll have to wait and see. I do like the placement of his depot here, working on the wall off. Of course, there is a nice little pair of plateaus that are acting as the choke point. Down here we do have the natural expansion, which will be kind of hard to get depending on if one or both players decide to get early siege tanks, as the siege tanks will be able to lay fire at this expansion where the SCVs are working hard, working overtime. There goes Nexus 1 with the scout. We already have Garu scouting out pretty early. He's going to find his opponent over there at the bottom left position. So we'll see exactly what these players do. We have Nexus 1 opening up with that very standard barracks at 13, gas at 14, and we're going to have that orbital command pop down at 15 supply here as well in just a second. Sure enough, there we go. Marine is on the way. Likewise for the Terran player Garu up here, we have a pretty similar opener. His barracks is just about complete. Probably expect to see him finish wall on that off here. Get a Marine as well. And we'll know in just a minute what exactly the players are going to be doing in terms of strategy. But like I said, with both players having one gas each, it still could go either way. You know, you can have some pretty crazy strategies coming from this league style of play. So either way, man, we are going to have a super fun matchup here today on this very macro-oriented map. There comes the SCV for Nexus 1. There it goes, rather, heading directly into the Marine. Oh, you'll be able to punch it. Oh, running right past, just in barely skimping by. He will be able to scout out. Okay, there's one gas right there. That's pretty much how his base is looking down here. We have that second gas just about complete, going for that factory, and you see he's actually cut the SCV production here. There he goes. Now I'm kind of wondering if this is going to lead to something, maybe a plan in just a few minutes. We'll have to wait and see if he's going to do something like a 1-1-1 play, maybe get out some Banshees, some Cloak. He certainly did come up and saw his opponent, did not have an engineering bay, was low on the energy right now, obviously using that for Mule. No real reason not to 4 minutes into the game here. But as far as detection goes, definitely not something that Garo looks like he's going to have at this point in time. So he is getting a bunker here, anticipating possibly an attack coming through the small choke point here. I mean, really, it's a smart move not to completely wall off, because the Marines, the Marauders, Siege Tanks, anything, pretty much everything Terran has is ranged, so the poor SCVs stand alone in their melee ability. Really the only threat that you have that a wall would be effective in stopping possibly some Hellions. But for now, we have Garo, his 4th Marines complete, is going to be able to load out that bunker and stay secure here for the early game, while the starport is on the way for Nexus 1. So you see he is continuing to lead on here with several Marines and 1 Hellion. He's got that blue flame upgrade on the way. The man is definitely going into this with something in mind. He could be going for some kind of Hellion drop behind the mineral line. Having this medevac here would certainly work out very well. And excuse me, I meant to say up here that Garo is working on that Blue Flame Hellion upgrade. Down here, Nexus 1 is not working on that. Rather, he does have that medevac on the way, as well as a siege tank. So he could be looking to just bust up the defenses right here that Garo has in place. Like I said before, the ranged units will be able to do this without too much difficulty, but we'll see if Garo is able to hold on here with those Hellions. He's going to have one out here in just a minute. Of course, if he's able to get a good lineup on these Marines, it'll work out very well. We'll see how this one particular Hellion is microed as Nexus keeps it away from that one Marine who stands apart from the rest. There's that second one coming down the line as well, as unfortunately Garo is supply blocked. Really not a good time for that to happen, but you see he does have those Marines up here, so he is going to still be able to defend. He's also working on that second barracks. He's got the starport, so the medevacs, he could be leading into that drop that I was talking about earlier. But the fact that Nexus 1, he's working on Siege Tech here. He's going to have that Siege Tank out. It's working its way across the field in that medevac as we speak. He's going to be able to lay siege to these defenses, which you see Garo's not quite sure. Should I run out? Should I try to engage? But with that Hellion there, it's probably not going to work out so well. So he did exactly what he should be doing, keeping those Marines out of range of that Hellion and that other Marine force. But here comes the Siege Tank now from Nexus 1, laying siege to the base. Oh no, 2 Marines deciding they can take out the entire army by themselves, definitely on some kind of stim packs or other drugs. But here comes the medevac. Oh, very close, so close to dying. Garo just inches away with 20 hit points with those 3 Hellions, hoping to come down and put some pressure on Nexus 1's base. So now Garo his only hope is to hold out long enough to do a significant amount of damage to the base with these Hellions. Will he be able to? Looking down here at the main base, we see a few Marines. Oh no, they're intercepted by the Viking up here in the middle of the field with the Marine and the Siege Tank en route. And now Nexus 1 is continuing to push forward. Garo's options are quickly decreasing as he is forced now to retreat with his command center heading behind the minerals, hoping to use the terrain, the minerals, and the depots to his own advantage here. With the SCVs coming out in final charge, his SCVs will be repairing, but Garo's will be destroying. Ultimately, Garo is forced to a GG, but not before he takes out that siege tank. And one last act of defiance. Google taking 3-0 victory over Twitter here on week 4. Congratulations to them. Moving on up. Good play by Twitter, though, guys. I mean, if nothing else, you guys, I'm sure that you guys have been trying so very hard, training your butts off. I'm sure that Caesar is keeping you in line. According to his profile, it sounds like he's pretty aggressive with the training. So, anyways, good games from these guys. Make sure you all stay tuned for more. We're going to cover week 5 here very shortly. The After Hours Gaming League. Make sure you want to check out the results, the team standings. That's afterhoursgaming.tv. Thanks again to Day9, Eric, for getting this together. Thanks to all the companies, players for getting this out. And we'll see you guys later.